everybody, it is Stephanie with Festive Creations by Stephanie, where we inspire and mentor others as well as design beautiful things for your home. Look at what I am up to today. Do you want to build a snowman's hat? So we're going to do a Crafty Wednesday project using these items, and I'm going to give you the full list here in just a moment. So today we're going to start with a bucket, and I meant to find out, this is a 2-gallon bucket from our local hardware store. So that's product number 1. You're going to need some styrofoam, bigger piece than this, but I wanted to use it as an example. Actually, I'm using this piece, but you don't need one quite this big. All right. You're going to need some black felt. I have 1/2 yard of black felt. You're going to need some greenery, some filler, and you'll want some ribbon to go on his hat. And I'm actually going to integrate a few lights into this as well. You're going to need scissors, I use wire cutters, a knife to cut your foam, and then the last thing that you will need, and the last thing that we're going to use is a piece of foam board, or you can use cardboard, but I'm going to use foam board for this because it's a little bit thicker, and I didn't have to layer after layer after layer. So this is like in the poster board section, but it's that thick foam board. So let me show you how fun this is going to be. So there's a little bit of prep to get ready to put this project together. And y'all know I like to take shortcuts and cheat. And Texas is in the house. Hi, Iona. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our bucket, first of all, and we're going to take our wire cutters, and I actually had Gary cut this ahead of time and snip the sides where the handle is at. So let me zoom in a little bit here. So we're going to cut it right below the handle on both sides with our wire cutters, and then we're just going to take the handle off. The handle is spare parts. Take our bucket and turn it upside down on our foam board, and we're going to make it wider than, actually this is the side that's going to go down, so we want it wider. And what I do is I cheat and I find something round in the house that's about the size that I want. So in this case, this actually happens to be a pie taker lid from Tupperware. Who all remembers Tupperware? I know they're still around, but I don't see them as much as I used to. So I'm going to take that and my marker, and if it's not quite big enough, then you can ad lib and not place your marker here. Let me get a little bit better in view for y'all. So if this still isn't wide enough, what you can do is take your marker at an angle and just leave it laying on the edge of my board here and just make your circle. So it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. If you have something the right size, that's great. Just draw your circle. Then we're going to take our knife. And I used an X-Acto knife, but I feel pretty confident you could use, wherever I put it, there it is hiding, a serrated knife to cut the foam board. And what I did was, to save a little time for y'all, is I already have mine cut. Look, Gary said, what are you doing, make like a souffle channel? So I have mine cut already. So I wanted to show you how I cut it though. So now we have, this is actually going to be the brim of his hat. With me so far? So this is going to sit on top of here. This 2-gallon bucket is going to sit on top of our brim of our hat. Then the next piece that we're going to need is a piece of foam to put down in our bucket, but there's a trick to this. So you're going to take your foam, and I have pre-cut it so that it saves a little time. And again, you don't need a piece this big, y'all. You're going to put your bucket top side down on the foam, and we're going to trace around the bucket and then cut the foam out. So I've already done most of the cutting. Number one, because I do a lot of foam in our creative circle with Festive Villa, our creative coaching, and it's very loud. So I wanted to do this mostly offline because it's an annoying sound. It almost is like fingernails on a chalkboard. But a serrated knife works really, really well with styrofoam. Look, we don't need any special tools. So now we have our foam. The important thing about your foam is that you want it to fit down inside of your bucket, and you want it tight. So right now this is a little big, and so I am going to trim this to fit down, but I don't want to push this all the way towards the bottom. I want it to fit snug so that it's about 2 inches from the top. Let me trim it down a little. Remember, better to have too much than not enough, because if you cut it too small, then we have a problem. If you do cut it too small and it just drops right down to the bottom, don't panic. Take your centers from your empty mesh rolls or something to that effect and fill it up so that this is only going to drop down about 2 inches from the top. And that's a lot of the prep work right there. A lot of the prep work. But I just want it to drop down inside of the bucket. Oh, that's almost perfect. You know what? I'm good. I'm good as long as that's... I'd like it to go down just a little bit more. Ooh, there we go. Apply a little pressure. And the reason that I want it to go just a little bit lower than the lip is because we don't want any of that foam to be seen when we get done. So I've pushed that down. It's okay if you go down a little further, but I would say no more than 2 inches. Let's move on. So the bucket, we're going to set off to the side, and we don't need that foam. That was for demo purposes only. Let's bring out some felt. Alright, so when we cut the felt, we're going to cut it so that it overhangs this way and this way. So I don't need it quite the half yard here, but if I had my marker, which is in a drawer, I didn't think about that, I'm going to cut a few off of this. The half yard is still great because we're going to use it for our brim of our hat too. Then we're going to take our hot glue and we're going to adhere it to our bucket. So let me finish cutting my felt. Alright, so I cut that pretty close, not intentionally. But let's see, for this 2.5 gallon bucket, I've cut 31 inches. I probably would go 32. Now, in order for it to conform to this, we're actually going to make a few snips in the felt. So, we're going to cut about 2 inches apart, maybe not quite that much. And we're going to fold these edges over the lip of our bucket. And then we're going to do the same thing on the bottom. Alright, so I'm going to take my glue gun and I'm going to apply some glue to our bucket. And then, let me see if it's warm enough yet. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so we're going to just put a stream of glue. Well, there we go. Now my glue gun is very hot, so I know that this glue is going to stay hot enough for me to get my fabric, my felt started here. So we're going to lay that right there on the edge of my glue line and glue it to our bucket. Then I'm just going to do some sporadic spots so that it adheres in a few different places. And again, if you have a low temp glue gun, you may not be able to do multiple strings like this at once. Now, I'm not too worried about any wrinkles here. We're going to be able to pull those out and be careful not to stick our fingers in the hot glue. Alright, so now where we cut those notches, we can fold those inward and we're going to glue those down to the bottom. So I'm just going to start piling on some glue here. And here is where I can work out some of those wrinkles. So I'm going to push this over where we've cut that. And it's pulling my felt taut. And I'm just going to keep gluing those over. And I'm kind of overlapping them and yeah, I don't know how else to describe it. I'm kind of folding them over on top of each other the more I go around the bucket. Okay, so that is what the bottom looks like. So, well, yes, that's what the bottom looks like. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the top. In fact, you know what? I'm probably going to have to trim this back just a little bit. So we might have to redo our tabs. I do have just a smidgen of a gap. That's why I told you guys to go a little bit longer with your cuts, because I do have a little smidgen. I would have preferred that that overlapped, but you know what? That just means that'll be the back of him, right? So we'll cut our tabs. This is so stinking simple, and wait till you see what this guy looks like when we get done. I have a vision. I have a vision. So now I'm going to glue those tabs down to the inside of the top of our bucket. All right, so our little tabs are going over the top. And now this is what the top looks like. So we've just glued those all down in there. Let's just take a piece of felt and camouflage that little green bucket. We can do that. We're creatives, right? Definitely have a few extra pieces here, so we can just camouflage whatever we want. So good. All right, now we're going to set our bucket to the side, and look, you can't even tell where that was, can you? Let's set this off to the side, and now let's work on the brim of our hat. So the brim is going to be, all right, so the brim of the hat is going to be very similar. We're going to take our other piece of felt. Remember, I got a half a yard, so we have plenty of felt here. And I'm going to cut my felt larger than the brim of our hat. And the brim is used, we have foam board. But if you don't have foam board or don't want to go to the dollar store and get a piece of foam board, use some cardboard. But I would double up on the thickness of cardboard and make sure that it's kind of thick. All right, and look, we still have leftover felt for another project. Then I'm going to make little slits here again. And you want to make them wide enough so that when you go to fold them over, if you happen to put any tension on the felt, you're not like ending up ripping off a whole piece of felt. All right, so now we're going to glue this down. And I might even, you know what, before I even do that, I'm going to put a little bit of glue back here. We want to make sure it's really adhered well. And we'll start pulling our tabs over. Okay, the brim. Let me put one more piece of glue, spotty glue right there. And because I don't want to burn my tootsies, my little fingers here. Okay, so we have that all glued down. And now we have the brim of the hat. Put a little bit of snowflake on there, that's okay. So now we're going to be able to set our bucket right on the brim of our hat. So we're going to center that on our brim. And then guess what? We're going to glue the daylights again. So we're going to add plenty of glue here. And close to the edge, but not all the way to the edge. Because if the glue starts to squeeze out, because I am putting a heavy load of glue on here, I don't want it to come out from the edges. And then just for good measure, we're going to put another pile of glue right here in the center. I could have actually used my glue pot. Probably would have been quicker. I will tell you, the brim we measured, it is about 14 inches diameter. So this 2-gallon bucket I made a 14-inch diameter round circle. Okay, what do you think so far? Now the fun. Now this is where I got a little bit more creative. So on this piece of it, I cheated a little, but I couldn't pass it up. This was at Joann's. It's 40% off, and it was originally $12.99. I don't know if you guys have ever used a garland in any of your decor, but garlands are very, very economical way to add to any floral design. So I'm actually just going to take this garland and wrap it up. It probably needs to go a little bit smaller. I might not even need the whole garland. You know what? I don't think I'm going to. So let me trim this off. So I'm going to set this garland, and I'm going to line the bottom of it with the garland. Now I chose this flock twin because it is the snowman hat, and it helps it look snowy, right? When I chose my greenery and my add-ons for this, I tried to choose some snowy items because it's a snowman, right? Let me grab some floral pens. So if you're not familiar with what a floral pen is, it's this little U-shaped pen. They're very difficult to see, but it's a U-shaped pen. All right, so now we have our base. This filled a lot of it, right? So now we can just start adding fun. So what did I find that was fun? I found snowflakes. This came from my personal stash, y'all. I found a little snowman. These I actually did just get from Joann's today because they're white. I love them. I love them. I have some other fun things that we can be adding to this. So this is where my creativity part comes in. And then I have the LED lights that we're going to integrate into these as well. So with this design, we're actually going to be able to stick the battery pack like along the edge so that it'll be easy for somebody to turn on and off. Right? Okay. Is this not fun? Y'all, I just looked over at my clock on my wall in my craft room and realized I have not changed the clock yet. So I'm like, really? It's 4 o'clock Central Time? I've been live for 2 hours? No. Okay, I love these little fun curly things. They're tied together. So they're wired together. So I'm trying to unwire these. I don't need them quite that tall, so I'm going to cut a little bit off. And I literally, where is the back of my snowman hat? Where is he? There he is. So I'm going to put my battery box back here by the back. And then of course I'm going to make sure that they're out of my way so that I don't glue them in any way, shape, or form. Okay, let me turn it around. Let me show you guys what this looks like. So that's with the snowflakes in there. I think I do kind of like the snowman in there. I don't have to glue him down yet. I have to decide whether or not the snowman stays or goes. I like him in there. This could sit on the floor next to your fireplace or a focal point. You could actually put it out on your patio. I would do a covered patio. Y'all are liking the snowman? Yeah, I think he's a keeper. So let's add him in there. We're going to permanently attach him. It's going to be very large for a centerpiece. And then remember, this is a 2-gallon bucket. Now, keep in mind that if you wanted to do this same project with a 5-gallon bucket, of course, all your dimensions are going to be much larger. And that would definitely look good in any of those places I just mentioned. You know, on the floor, as a floor decor, out on your patio or your entryway. So he's pretty big. I typically don't make a centerpiece quite this large, but I could definitely see him sitting on the floor next to my fireplace or next to the sofa if I don't have a fireplace. All right, so now I'm adding some of this frosted greenery, and this also came from, where did this come from? Andrea, oh, it is Joann's. Yep. So this came from Joann's, but you can find this at the at-home store, any of your place that sells products for Christmas. Now this is the back of it. So you're seeing the back right now. So now I did leave this kind of more open right here so that the snowman was kind of peeking out. We've got our snowflakes, but we're not done yet. Now keep in mind that I have glitter and snow down here on the brim. I will have to take a lint roller or something to take that all off. But, hang on. We're not done. Look. So I'm taking some 2.5-inch gingham in the red and black, and we're going to attach it back here behind on the back side. Hopefully without getting burned. Where's my little cheater? Just a smidge more glue. So I just overlapped my ribbon back here and attached it there. Now we're going to take another piece of our 2.5-inch gingham, and we're just going to make a small bow, nothing special, and I'm going to take some jute. I don't want anything fancy schmancy, because you know, sometimes fancy is not what you need. I'll tie him up with our jute rope. It's those finishing touches, right, that can make or break something. So we don't want this overpowering. And I'm going to bring some jute up front. And turning back around, so I've got the front here. And I'm just going to glue that directly onto our bucket. So I'm holding that there while the glue dries. Our snowman hat is complete. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was fun to make. Not too difficult, right? Not too difficult. Stay safe and be kind to one another. Have a great day, guys.